Could Jayden Daniels be headed to the Seattle Seahawks? Welcome in to this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. An interesting new development. Seattle Seahawks hired Zak Hill as an offensive assistant. And what's interesting about this, not so much about Zak Hill's position. It's a minor role in the coaching staff. But the background of Zak Hill. He was Jayden Daniels' quarterback coach at Arizona State. So could we be seeing the groundwork being laid to bring Jayden Daniels in to work with Zak Hill in Seattle? We'll discuss this and go over the possibilities and what it would take to make it happen. Go over the scouting report on Jayden Daniels and more coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do that, though, folks, want to make sure that we get this show out to as many of the 12s as we possibly can. And we need a favor from you. We need you to share today's show. And I have a little extra added incentive for you if you do so. Here's how it works. Click the share button, select the X icon, formerly known as Twitter. Click Post to X and tag me at Tyler Jones Live, and I will repost it there on X, formerly known as a retweet. The first 10 people to tag me and share today's show and follow me on X, you are going to get a follow back on X as well. So help me, help you. I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and we get this show out to as many people as we can. Certainly appreciate it. Help us out. We'll help you out here on this edition of Seahawks Today. Let's start off with a tweet from Mark McClune, my buddy that does TV in the Phoenix area, does an incredible job. He's the one that actually broke this news and said the following. Former Sarugo coach Zak Hill has been hired by the Seahawks as an offensive assistant / quality control. Hill led the SaberCats. That's a great team name, by the way. To the 6A state title last year and was headed to Gilbert North to be the AD. So he leaves the high school ranks at Arizona, where he had been at the last 2 seasons, actually, to make this big jump to the National Football League. Quite the changeover, right? But don't let that fool you, as he has plenty of experience at the college level, at the Power 5 level specifically, as he was OC and quarterbacks coach there at Arizona State, working with Jayden Daniels from 2020 to 2021. Prior to that was with the Boise State Broncos from 2016 to 2019. And so now that kind of leads us, that sets the scene, right? You're saying there's a chance, right? Zak Hill, this one's a hire that's kind of just out of nowhere, right? This was not a name that we had anticipated the Seahawks hiring. You would think there's some potential intent, some purpose behind it, right? Now, let's say this much. Jayden Daniels is not going to be cheap, right? I mean, Jayden Daniels is expected to be one of the first 3 quarterbacks taken in this April's draft, along with Caleb Williams and Drake May, and I cannot imagine him sliding out of the top 5. Newsflash, the Seahawks pick at 16 overall, so you kind of add the two together just to be even in consideration to bring in Jayden Daniels. You are going to have to make a trade, and a significant trade at that. Later on, I'll show you my trade idea and how this could potentially work. We'll go over that in just a bit, but first, let's ask you, what do you think about Jayden Daniels, the player? Would you like to see him in Seattle? It's our pinned comment today. Y for yes, in for no. Weigh in, tell me what you think. Do you want the Seahawks to draft Jayden Daniels or not? Tell us. More on Jayden Daniels. Spent the last 2 seasons of his career with the LSU Tigers, and before that was with Arizona State, where he had worked there with Zak Hill as his QB coach. And he was outstanding this year with LSU. Won the Heisman Memorial Trophy and has seen his stock really just skyrocket, as he is now the number 2 quarterback on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board, the number 3 overall player. And prior to this season, Jayden Daniels didn't even have a first-round grade, according to most draft experts. So he really just soared up with an outstanding final season with the LSU Tigers this past year. Mel Kiper Jr. had this to say about Jayden Daniels in his most recent big board that had him as the number 3 overall player. Daniels has rare ability as a dual-threat playmaker. He can evade, elude, and blow by defenders, but he also impressed with the way he could run through contact. but it's his improvement as a passer that has him looking like a round one selection. Yes, having blue-chip wideouts Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. to throw to was a huge benefit, but they also were fortunate to have a passer like Daniels with a big-time skill set directing the offense. And that's a great point by Mel there as far as talking about giving credit to Jayden Daniels for the success of Neighbors and Thomas. That's been kind of a thing that's been used to discredit Jayden Daniels as, well, he had this great receiving core. Well, somebody still got to get him the football, and he did do that. For me, I look at Jayden Daniels, he's the most fascinating prospect in this year's draft, and let me explain why. I feel like we already know who Caleb Williams is, that Caleb Williams feels like a sure thing, okay? You go to Jayden Daniels here, and all the skill set is there. The athleticism, the playmaking ability, all of that. But then to see it translate, okay? I mean, even if you look at his college stats and numbers and all that, you're riding off of one great season. The rest of his career was just kind of so-so, a little sus. So I don't know what I'm getting necessarily. If I'm getting the Jayden Daniels that won the Heisman Trophy and played to that potential and that level at the end of last season, if that's the version that's here to stay, then I'm getting a future franchise quarterback who's going to be a star in this league. If I'm getting the Jayden Daniels that we saw prior, then that ain't going to work. So that's the great unknown that we really just don't know if last year was a fluke or if this is who he is to stay at this point. More on Jayden Daniels in a moment, but first, got a great deal we're offering. It's still not quite warm outside in the city of Seattle in the state of Washington, but no need to fear. Hoodies and sweatshirts are here. Now for a limited time, up to 50% off while supplies last. We're also offering some free shipping as well. Check them out for yourself. See if you want one of these snazzy hoodies. There's more to choose from besides just the ones on your screen as well. Chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie to get yours today. Up to 50% off. Great selection, both men's and women's products as well. Check it out today. Tell them that Tyler Jones sent you. You'll be glad you did. Chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodies to get yours today. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. All right, here's the scouting reports on Jayden Daniels. Elite athleticism, excellent burst and agility. The guy can move, right? Nobody's disputing that. He's got good ability to create, turning something out of nothing, right? That's a big deal. I think Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes kind of changed the game on that, of that expectation of quarterbacks in the NFL. You have to have that elite ability to create and take that extra step. Daniels does that. He's a dangerous runner. I mean, the speed is there. The way that he can maneuver through defenses. I mean, when the play breaks down, you can't not account for what he can do to take that next step. He's a creative thrower outside the pocket as well. You get him in space and watch out. The ability to extend the play does a very good job of. And then one of the most important things, very good deep ball accuracy. The Seattle Seahawks offense, I think, is going to look to kind of stretch the field a bit under Ryan Grubb in this air raid scheme that's coming to the Seattle Seahawks here. And the deep ball is going to be very, very important. And when you got guys like DK Metcalf, to get the ball down the field, to push the ball downfield, very important, somebody that can do that. And Jayden Daniels has shown that ability to do so. Now, as far as what it takes to get there, this is where we have a hard conversation here, where I have to be real with y'all. If you want Jayden Daniels, he's not going to be around at 16, not going to be around at 10, not going to be around at 8, not going to be around probably at 5 either. You're going to have to trade up to the number 2 pick. I'd have to grab one of those tough pills to swallow and just face this reality. He ain't going to be around. You're going to have to go up to 2 if you want to make this. So, the Commanders, they need a quarterback themselves. Dan Quinn, our old friend, of course, over there. It's not going to be easy to trade up to this position. But here's what we're looking at a minimum. This is probably the best case scenario. You move up to 2. You give up the pick at 16. You give up one of your third-round picks. you give up a first-round pick next year, and you give up Geno as well. That's the absolute best-case scenario. And honestly, it might even require more than that. It might even take 3 first-round picks, but this is just the best option for Seattle here. So then it becomes, if you're going to do this, if you're Mike Macdonald and you're Ryan Grubb, are you sold that Jayden Daniels is that guy? If he is, then you take the risk and you make the move. We've seen what the Chiefs did to trade up to go get Patrick Mahomes, where they mortgaged their future and it paid off for them. They traded up and they would do it over and over and over again, right? We've also seen where this hasn't worked. San Francisco 49ers with the Trey Lance trade a couple years ago gave up 3 first-round picks. They got lucky that it kind of worked out with Brock Purdy anyway. But if you're convinced, then you do it. If not, if you have even a little bit of hesitation, you don't make this trade. So let's ask you now, should the Seahawks trade up for a quarterback in this year's draft? Where Seattle picks at 16, you're likely not going to get one of those top quarterbacks. If Jayden Daniels somehow fell to 16, you would take him and not even think twice about it. But do you think they should be aggressive and make that move up? Whether it's Daniels, whether it's Drake May, I doubt the Bears are going to be trading down for the Caleb Williams situation. But do you think they should move up and go get one of those elite quarterbacks? Weigh in, tell me what you think. T for trade, P for pass. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Follow me on X at Tyler Jones Live. Share the show. Tag me in it. I'll retweet you, repost it, whatever Elon's calling it. And we'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.